Hare Krishna. Today we are going to revise chapter number 14 of Bhagavad Gita, and it is titled The Three Modes of Material Nature. Before we start, let's do the Manglacharan. Vandai Shri Guru, Shri Yutpat Kamalam, Shri Gurun Vaishnavancha, Shri Rupam Sagrajatam, Sagan Raghunathavintam, Tasajivam, Sadvaitam, Swabdhutam, Parijan Sahitam, Krishna Chaitanya Devam, Shri Radha Krishna Padan, Sagan Lalita, Shri Vishakha Thivantascha, Om Agyantrimandarsya, Gyananchan Shalakya, Chakshurunvintam, Yen Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. The three modes of nature. And before we start it, let's understand what is the three modes of nature. I would request you to spare some time and go to the site which I'm going to show you on the screen and see this one, work on it, understand this one, and you will be able to understand much more about the three modes of nature. Practically, it means goodness, passion, and ignorance. Goodness means doing all the good things in the planet. And passion means doing all those things which you need for your own self. And ignorance means not doing anything which is right, which is recommended by our Vedas and Shastras, which is not good. Ignorance. And the result will be madness, laziness, drinking, gambling, all those things. So all these details, if you want to know, you can go through this website, what you see on the screen. I hope you are able to see it. Okay, now coming back to it. Coming back to the three modes of nature in the chapter number 14, Bhagwan Ji starts describing as the wisdom about the modes of nature. But before we go a little bit further, let's see the connection between chapter number 13 and chapter number 14. Chapter number 13, Bhagwan Ji mentions about how a living entity by his own desire becomes entangled in the three modes of material nature. And in chapter number 14, he describes how material nature binds the living entity. In shlok number 1 and 2, Bhagwan Ji gives the wisdom about the knowledge which he is going to bestow in this chapter. And he says that all the sages in the past, whoever have understood this wisdom, they have been liberated. And Bhagwan Ji further says, one can attain transcendental nature like Krishna himself, and one is never born again at the time of creation, or he does not get disturbed or dies at the time of dissolution of this whole universe. So such is the power of the wisdom of this particular chapter. So let's get further. In shlok number 3 and 4, Bhagwan Ji tells us how the jivas comes in contact with the prakriti or the material nature. Krishna informs that he impregnates the whole universe. There's a very, very, very famous shlok, and I will just read out for you. And it says, Aham bija pradaha pitaha. Aham bija pradaha pita, meaning that I am the seed giving father of the all things that are there in the whole universe. Whatever living beings are there on this universe, he is the seed giving father. So that is the knowledge we take it as the base, and then we proceed further. And then in shlok number 4, 5 and 9, he Bhagwanji mentions about the how the three modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, they bind the Jiva or the living being. So, Shlok number 5 to 9, it mentions material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, he becomes conditioned by these modes. As long as he is in the body and is thinking and worshipping Krishna Bhagwanji, these three modes of nature will not affect him. But as soon as he forgets his purpose of coming to this planet and he starts fulfilling the desires of his body, then he becomes conditioned. He is then entangled with the three modes of nature. Either he would be doing good things, either he would be doing what passionate things for his own sense gratification, for his own body needs, or he would be doing things as per ignorance, foolish things, madness, losing his senses, drinking, gambling, stealing, thieving, because he's not able to earn. So he start stealing things. So all these things are under ignorance. Then Bhagavanji further says, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in the mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. And about passion, Bhagavanji says, the mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings. You're never satisfied. You want more and more. And because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions. So whatever he is doing, he wants results for his own satisfaction. And then know that the mode of darkness, born of ignorance, is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul. So that is what we have learned. The three modes of nature. Bhagwanji then concludes in the chapter number 9 about these modes of nature. The mode of goodness conditions one to happiness. Passion conditions one to fruitive actions. And ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness. So that is up to Shlok number 9 we have covered. Then further in Shlok number 10 to 13, it is mentioned over here how the three modes of nature act. What is the action of the three modes of nature? Let's see in detail about it. In Shlok number 10, it's mentioned that sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times, ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy. You see, in practical life, we come across friends and relatives and we meet them after few months or few years. And then we are telling them that you have changed a lot. Now, if a person is in goodness, he is not going to remain in goodness for all the times. Now, if a person is in passion, I mean, earning more and more and more and more for his own sense gratification, he's not going to remain over at that state of affairs all the time. And similarly, a person who is in ignorance, stealing, gambling, and doing all those foolish things, is not going to remain at that stage all the times. He will change. Sometimes goodness is prominent, sometimes passion is prominent, sometimes ignorance is prominent. So this is what Bhagwanji is mentioning in this shlok number, that there is always competition for supremacy of these three modes of nation. Either goodness is strong, or passion is strong, or ignorance is strong. Further, Bhagavanji says, the manifestations of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. We have two eyes, two ears, two nostrils. genitals, and the anus, and the mind, of course. And all these gates are illuminated when we are in the mode of goodness. Further, Bhagwanji says, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of greatness, attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develops. You want more and more, never satisfied. And when there is increase in the mode of ignorance, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested. So this is what we have understood, that what is the action of the modes of material nature. Now, going further from chapter 14 to 18, the chapter describes the destinations of the living entities and of the three modes of nature and to what directions they go. So it is mentioned over here in the modes of nature, what happens to them, what directions they go. So it is mentioned here. When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages. Where great sages live, one rises to those higher planets when a person is dies in the mode of goodness. And when a person is in the mode of passion, when he dies, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities. And when one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom. Very sad state of affairs. A person who dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom. Further, Bhagwanji says in shlok number 16, the result of pious action is pure and is said to be in the mode of goodness. But action done in the mode of passion results in misery, and action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness. So always try to be in the mode of goodness. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. One is never satisfied, wants more and more and more. You have one bungalow, you want two bungalows. You have one car, you want more cars. You have so much of wealth, you want more and more wealth. You have all the comforts, physical, material comforts. You want more and more to sustain them. And from the mode of ignorance, the Shlok 17 says, develops foolishness, madness, and illusion. When you are intoxicated, you are under illusion that you are the most happiest person on this planet. That is all illusion. Okay. And lastly, in this subject, in Shlok number 18, Bhagwanji says, those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets where sages live. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets. They come back on the planet Earth. And those in the mode of ignorance, they go down to the lower planets, to the hellish worlds. More of hell, more of sufferings are there in the lower planets. Now, from shlok number 19 till the end of the chapter, that is shlok number 27, shlok number 19 to shlok 27, then Bhagwanji explains how to get out of this entanglement of the three modes of material nature. So far, he has mentioned and taught us what happens in the direction of the three modes of material nature. We have to rise above this. We have to rise above goodness. We have to rise above passion. We have to rise above ignorance. Nirgun state of affairs. We have to reach over there. So neither the goodness, neither the passion, neither the ignorance affects us. If we keep on doing good things, we will get results out of it, good results of it. And we will have to take the birth again. Now, if one has to be liberated, if he wants to be liberated, then one has to rise above goodness. Always keep on doing Krishna related work. That is rising above goodness. So we have to rise above goodness, we have to rise above passion, we have to rise above ignorance. So that is how one is liberated from the three modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So Bhagwan Ji mentions this from slok number 19 to slok number 27. And there is a question by our dear leader on behalf of all living beings, Arjun. Arjun also asks three questions in one shlok. We'll come to that. In shlok number 19, Bhagwan Ji mentions, when one properly sees that all the activities, no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows that the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. So that is when one understands that Krishna Bhagwanji is the doer of everything, and he is the supreme and transcendental above the modes of material nature, then he attains the spiritual nature of Krishna Bhagwanji. Further, Bhagwanji mentioned in Shlok number 20, when the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes of associated with the material body, he can become free from birth and death. He can become free from old age, and there is no distress for him, and he can enjoy nectar even in this life. So these are the benefits of rising above the three modes of material nature. Now, Arjun asks three questions in shlok number 21. He says, "O my Lord Krishna Bhagwanji, by which symptom is one known who is transcendental to these three modes of nature? What are his symptoms? Who rises above these three modes of nature?" And the second question is, what is his behavior? And the third question is, and how does he transcend the modes of nature? So this reply to this is given by Krishna Bhagwanji. He is very merciful. He is very guiding force. He answers each and every questions very patiently, Krishna Bhagwanji, to all the questions of Arjuna. And Arjuna is asking questions on behalf of us, the living beings, so that it can benefit for all the generations to come. So Bhagwanji mentioned in the shlok number 22 to 25 answers to the first two questions. And Bhagwanji mentions, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon the lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal toward the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all the material activities, such a person is said to have transcendental the modes of nature. So these are the qualities of a person who has transcended, who has crossed, who has risen above the three modes of nature. And in short, who regards the alike happiness and distress, who treats stone, gold, and a piece of earth alike, and who is that the modes of nature alone are only active, and who sees with equal eye the friend and the enemy. So these are the qualities of a person who transcends above the three modes of nature. And the how does such a person behave? He is materially situated in such a way that he treats his enemies and friends alike, and he treats his honor and dishonor alike. And he is not affected either in poverty or in richness. He performs his duty in Krishna consciousness and does not mind whether a man honors or dishonors him. He accepts things that are favorable for his duty in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, he has no necessity of anything material, either a stone or a gold. He takes everyone as his dear friend who helps him in his execution of Krishna consciousness. And he does not hate his so called enemies. This is how he behaves. And the answer to the last question, Kishan Bhagwanji gives in Shlok number 26. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahma. And how does one rise the above three modes of material nature? Bhagwanji gives answer to that, that there is only one solution, there is only one path, and that is bhakti. And one then rises above the three modes of nature and reaches the level of Brahma. And Brahma is the effulgence coming out of the odor of the body of Krishna Bhagavanji himself. So once a person reaches that level, he is the one who rises above three modes of nature. And Bhagavanji says in the last shloka, and I am the basis of this impersonal Brahma, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So we have to reach that level of happiness, immortality, and this is possible only through bhakti. And for bhakti, we have to surrender to Gurudev and listen to his advice and abide and implement his advice and daily do the Mahamantra, the Nam Jap. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Dutifully, we have to do this Nam Jap on daily basis without any failing, without any distraction, under the guidance of our Gurudev. So thank you very much. This is the end of chapter number 14, the three modes of nature. And we shall now continue with the chapter number 15, which is titled The Yoga of the Supreme Person. So Bhagwanji is going to further give his wisdom on the yoga of the Supreme Person. So we shall be doing it shlok by shlok, and thereafter we shall summarize it once again. So thank you very much for being with me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.